Hey everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jack today. It's Friday. It's been a long week, seen a lot of great things, helped a lot of people. So today I am going to jump right in and kind of share some of my experience this week, get some great things, interesting things happen. This is going to be a video on things to watch out for buyers when you're looking in the Treasure Valley, Caldwell, Nampa, Boise areas, a little more pertaining to older homes. So what I'd like to point out is something that I ran into that I feel is very important that gets overlooked is when people see houses, always fall in love with, say, the tile, the granite, all those great things. Not that those aren't important, but the fluff. What I encourage people to do is look past the fluff and pay attention to the bones and the big ticket items. So today I'm going to cover 4 things that I came across this week, and hopefully this will help you make an educated decision when you are actually out there buying and selling real estate. Let's jump right in. The first one is, here in Idaho, you are allowed to have 2 layers of roofs, one over the other. What we ran across on this specific house is they actually had decking over the shingles, then they had the second roof. A lot of potential problems, as well as when you do go to replace that roof, that's going to be a huge labor cost, as well as material disposal and that. I want to make that buyer very aware of what's going on. He still loves the house, and we're going to move forward on it, but he had to set that money aside. I said that's not double, but it's going to add quite a bit. Just something to be aware of. When you are out looking for houses, always look at the roof, and I go to the side, or in this case, I could see very clearly the way the roof came down. I could look right off the porch and see that it was a couple layers. You just got to look a little more close and you'll see the layers. You can tell. Super important. The next item, number 2, I would like to go over is old electric systems. And this house had the old screw-in fuses, which are not dangerous. However, they are not dangerous. However, they do work in a different manner. Not a deal breaker. However, it does cost. I quoted him about another $5,000. In case you don't know me, again, my name's Eddie Udry. I'm a real estate agent for 10 years here in the Treasure Valley, but also a master electrician and contractor here in the Treasure Valley for 25 years. I quoted him a really good price. I do that for clients. It's just another cost that would be incurred. Here we are, we got a new roof and a new electric panel in the house. You're looking at $25,000 roughly for those 2 things. And that might be a little on the high side. However, I would rather, under promise and over deliver on that one. Moving on, just be aware of electric systems. Look around, ask your agent, hey, that looks kind of old, I also noticed walking around the house, there's a lot of 2-prong outlets. That means that outlet's not grounded. Not a big deal. However, it is a big deal when you're plugging sensitive electronics in it. I suggested, hey, do you have a nice TV or a really nice stereo? He was a musician. What about that equipment? How can we protect that? Something to look out for. Worked for many years. The house is from 1938. Worked for many years. Is not unsafe. However, if there's a power surge or a power fault, it could potentially be a problem and not be so good for your sensitive electronics. I just suggested, hey, we run a couple extra circuits for those sensitive electronics. Where are we going to put them? And he was fine with that as well. Next item is older HVAC, or furnace and air conditioner, as we call it. HVAC. This house, again, had a very dated system. However, I could see if you go up to the panel, if you go up to usually on the furnace on the inside of the house, you'll see it has a schedule of maintenance. That gives you a lot of information. Not only are they keeping up with it, right? It's kind of like changing the oil in the car. Are they keeping up on it? Great, if they are. If not, then it tells you another story, right? So, and it also tells you when that unit was installed. So, super huge piece of information. You want to know how old that furnace and air conditioner is? I just went to a flip property, and the builder was complaining that he had to pay $6,000 just for a new air conditioner. One air conditioner, $6,000. Not that long ago, it was half that. So we are experiencing a lot of inflation. So these prices, they may vary, but however, this is as of June of 2026. That's what I know. Okay, lastly, but definitely not least, is Another thing we came up with this week, and something to educate yourself about, is plumbing. I've talked a little bit about it in other videos. However, this week this was a home inspector. He was inspecting, it was the house before he got to ours, but he called me because he was running late because he ran into what's called polybutylene piping. That was used here in the Treasure Valley from the mid to late 80s to the early 90s. So houses built in that time frame, you want to be aware of what you're up against. This is a great pipe, and it has since been recalled because of, and I've heard different things. Some people say it's the fitting, some people say it deteriorates from the inside out. What happened to this inspector is he moved the insulation, he bumped that polybutylene pipe, and the fitting broke, and there was water everywhere. Then he had to scramble, and he also needed to know where the water shut off. Huge thing you should know as a homeowner is, where is the water shut off just for this kind of emergency. He kept the cool head, and he just went out and had to shut it off at the street. And it's also good to know that if you can't access your shut off very quickly. But all that takes time, and in that time, water's filling up in the crawl space. Just things to watch out for. Polybutylene pipe, like I said, the time frame, mid to late 80s to the early 90s. Just something to keep an eye on, because something like that can be super costly, especially if you're in a house that has everything finished, and so you have to either open up walls, or you have to try and get it from the crawl space or from above. I mean, it's really, like I said, as a previously being an electrician, fishing lines up and down walls is very difficult and very time consuming, and as we all know, labor is expensive. In wrapping up, the 4 things I would watch out for when you're out looking for homes and ask about is the roof, the furnace and air conditioner, the plumbing, and the electricals. Roughly how old are these things? They can be very costly in this day and age, and so if you want somebody who's a little more experienced in the trades and knows how to keep an eye on things, I'd love to talk to you more about it. If you want to work together, that'd be fantastic. All my information will be in the description below, as well as a home buyer's guide. This is geared mainly towards first-time home buyers because they are my passion. They're always excited. However, you want to make an informed, educated decision before you put yourself and all that money out there. I'd love to help you and talk more about it. If you like, please drop me a comment, like, and subscribe. Hope to see you on the next one. Thanks.